Hi, this is Elisa with XYZ Wellness. And today I'd like to share with you a practice designed for runners, but it's okay if you're not a runner. This will still be very beneficial. Even if we sit a lot, get very tight muscles, tight hips, tight glutes. So this is a great practice for all my running friends, and I love to run. I run probably as much as I do yoga, so I like that yoga and running complement each other very well. But again, if you're a cyclist, or if you walk, or if you do CrossFit, or anything active, or even if you're a little inactive, this will be a great practice for you. So I hope you enjoy it, and if you do, please make sure to like and subscribe so that way you'll get updates as I post new videos, and I do try to post every week. So without anything further, we'll get started. Today we're going to start in child's pose, which is a great pose especially after some type of activity, or even, as I said, if you've been sitting for a little while. So we'll bring our big toes to touch, and our knees can be wide, and that'll really help give us space for the hips to open. And then just allowing the body to lengthen down along the mat. And our forehead can come down all the way to the mat, or we can bring our hands or maybe our block underneath the forehead to let it rest. So first, just coming to the breath, noticing and observing any sensations there, being aware of how the body's moving, how the body and the breath are flowing together. So does the breath get stuck anywhere, or does it flow freely? Being aware of any sensations in the low back and hips, and maybe gently swaying the hips from side to side if that feels good. So just a tiny motion as we check in with the body. And if we're shifting from side to side, we might be aware of the hips or the low back, maybe inner thighs or the ankles. We'll just start to inhale and exhale through the nose if that feels okay, and we'll come to a place of stillness when that feels good. And as we're breathing in and out through the nose, if that gets tricky at all in any way, we can start to just come to a natural breath, just staying with that natural breath. And knowing that anytime we need to, we can always come back to this place to check in with the body or to rest. Child's pose is a great place for us to rest. But remembering, if this is uncomfortable to the knees, we can either add more padding or place some padding underneath the thighs, in between the thighs and the calves, or maybe coming onto our backs if that feels more restful. We can always come into a knees to chest position. So from here, we'll inhale, coming all the way up onto hands and knees into tabletop pose. And just like we did in our child's pose, we can start to shift the hips. So maybe just swaying from side to side, or we can start to circle the hips. So over to the left side, back to the right side, and then front. So not a very big motion, but a nice circular motion for the hips. We'll go one more time in this direction, and then we can circle the hips in the other direction. And these circles can be small to start out, since we're just starting to go through this practice, or we could gradually make them bigger if we'd like. And then resting those hips back into child's pose, we'll extend our arms all the way in front of the body, spreading those fingertips wide into starfish fingers. And then curling our toes under, we'll lift those hips into downward facing dog, pushing the floor away from us with our strong arms. Our hands are about shoulder width apart, feet are hip distance. And we can start pedaling out our feet, so bending one knee very deeply while we straighten the other, and then just switching sides. So this is a really nice motion to stretch out the calves and wake up the backs of the hamstrings. We're massaging the bottoms of the feet, so we're getting a whole lot of benefit from this motion, from this pose, from downward facing dog, with this side to side motion, pedaling out the feet. Really pushing that floor away from us with those strong arms. Chest is reaching back for the legs. And we're lifting the tailbone. So thinking about drawing in through the pelvic floor, engaging what we call root lock from Mula Bandha. Just shifting as much as feels good, or staying still if that feels better. But especially after running or any type of movement, our calves and ankles might be really tight. So just enjoying this. Being aware of any sensations, anything the body might be telling us. And then lifting those hips just a little bit higher as we allow the heels to go a little closer to the mat, even if they don't make it all the way down. So it's not important to get the heels all the way down. Just that action of pushing the heels down and back will help you stretch out the backs of the legs into the hamstrings. Really stretching out the calves. And then exhaling, we'll bring our knees down to the mat. We'll find another child's pose, lengthening here. Noticing any differences in the body already. And inhaling, we'll come forward. We'll bring our right knee directly over the ankle. So we might want to keep that back knee on a towel or a blanket, giving it a little bit of cushion, or we can bring it down to the floor. The right knee is directly over the ankle. And we'll first set up, finding that position, drawing the left hip forward, right hip back, getting a good stretch through the front of the rear leg into our hip flexor, and maybe extending that left arm to the sky, maybe adding the right arm. But when we lift that same arm as the back leg, we get an added bonus through the front of the hip flexor, through that psoas muscle, relaxing our shoulders down away from the ears, letting our gaze be steady. And if our arms get a little tired up there, we can bring hands to heart center, or maybe down to that front thigh. And then inhale, we'll come forward, and we'll switch sides. So now stepping the left foot forward, lunging on the other side. We always want to start with the knee and the ankle safely aligned. Hands can come to our blocks, or maybe up to that front thigh. Again, option to lift the arm, either one or both. Squaring those hips, inviting that left hip back in line with the right hip. And choosing your place for the arms, whatever feels good today. We could even try cactus arms, getting a little bit of chest expansion, opening through the front of the shoulders. There's no right or wrong here. Now you can inhale those arms up and exhale. Bring the hands back down to the floor, coming down into a tabletop position. Knees are directly underneath the hips, hands are under the shoulders. If there's any wrist discomfort, we could use fist for wrists. Just listening to your body. And then inhaling, we'll lift the tailbone, dropping the tummy, extending that heart forward, drawing shoulders in towards each other. So right now we're in cow pose. As we exhale, we'll start to round the spine, drawing navel in towards the back, chin in towards chest, really pushing the floor away from us into that angry cat. Inhaling slowly as we extend, and exhaling to round. So we'll do that a few times, moving with the pace of your breath. So just however feels good to you. Inhaling, offering the heart forward, tailbone reaching up, belly dropping. Exhaling, rounding, chin in towards the chest. Shoulders are moving away from each other now, pushing that floor away from us, creating a lot of space. So just another round or two here, really massaging out the spine. And this is a great move to come to. We can do cat and cow on our hands and knees, and we could do it in a chair, and also even standing. So anytime we need to massage out the spine, we can always come to this combination. After this next cat pose, we'll come back into that neutral tabletop. And this time we're going to wag our tail like a happy dog. So starting in that neutral position in our table, pushing the floor away from us as we take an in-breath. We'll exhale, looking over the left shoulder towards the left foot. And then inhaling, making our way back to the middle. And exhaling to look over to the other side. This is a nice lateral movement for the spine. So we're shortening one side of the torso as we lengthen the other side. And this might go really good down into the hips and the low back. You can pause anywhere where we're noticing a little extra sensation. We could stay on hands and knees, or maybe taking the opposite leg across, looking towards that foot now, lengthening that side body, extending as we add that change here with the foot. And if we're crossing that leg, we'll send that heel towards the opposite wall, sending some energy out. We'll do just one more time to each side, any variation. Whatever is feeling good to you today. Always listening to your body. So then coming back into hands and knees, and then coming up onto our knees. We're going to come into a variation of a pose. We're going to explore frog pose. So we'll do it a couple different ways. So the first time we'll do frog pose, we'll do half frog. So coming down onto the belly, and then making our way all the way over to the right side of our mat. We'll bend that left knee. So the left knee, the left hip, the left foot, everything's at a 90-degree angle. And then either coming up onto forearms, as in Sphinx pose. So we could be right here. But if that's uncomfortable in any way to the upper body, we could lower down, bringing the forehead onto the backs of the hands, and then just allowing time in this position to help stretch out and create some space in that left hip. So we'll let the breath be nice and steady, breathing into that hip. So we'll be here for just a couple breaths because we're going to try full frog after we do the other side. So as you're ready, slowly, actually first we'll bend that left leg, allowing everything to neutralize. And then we'll start to lift up and shift our bodies over to the left side. So again, we're coming to the left edge of our mat, so we have a little more room for our right leg. And now we'll bend that right leg to 90 degrees. Right foot is out at an angle, so the big toe side of the foot is down, touching the floor. And you might choose to stay here, up on forearms, pushing those forearms into the mat, elbows directly under the shoulders, fingertips wide. So we're getting a little bit of a back bend there. But if that doesn't feel good today, remember we could lower the forehead down, getting that openness into the hips. So just allowing the body to release at its own pace, allowing whatever it is to be. And sometimes you might come into this pose and think, well, I'm not feeling a whole lot. But over time, we'll get that release. And if this isn't enough, then we can explore our full frog. Or if this is enough, then definitely staying here. You can repeat what we just did. So we'll draw that right leg in. And then coming up onto hands and knees. There are a couple different ways that we this. And so what I'll do is I'll turn the mat sideways so that way you can get a good view here. And first, maybe rolling up the edges, the outside edges of each side of the mat. So that way we have a nice place for the knees to rest. So making any adjustments there, making it just wide enough, or we need to bring it closer together. And then maybe bringing a blanket in front of the body. So we can either have our knees on the blanket, or maybe our elbows and forearms. So your choice here. And just like we did in the modified half frog when we were on the floor, we'll try to make that foot go out at an angle. So think of a frog's leg. So we've got a right angle here, right angle there roughly, and then the big toe side of each foot is down on the ground. We can come down onto forearms, or maybe down, bringing the forehead to rest, maybe even to our block. So always choosing what feels good today. And maybe experimenting with those options. So you might try one option and it might feel okay for a second, and then maybe you decide you'd like to try something else. And in this frog, we could maybe gently sway forward and back. You might even actually want some cushioning under your feet. I'm feeling here like I would definitely like some cushioning under my feet. So making any adjustments there, we might want to scoot forward a little bit, just so you can be comfortable. There's no reason to be uncomfortable in our yoga postures. So making any necessary adjustments. It might feel good to just gently rock from side to side or forward and back, just exploring the different angles. So there's no right or wrong. I'm just trying to create some openness in those hips. And our hips carry a lot of emotion and tension. So separate from running, there's already a lot of tightness in our hips, and we all do a lot of sitting. So even if we are very active, our hips can be very tight. So this can be a place that takes a little bit of time to cultivate some openness and some stretch. So just being kind and compassionate with ourselves here. And this might be a little much, so we've been here a little while. So as we're ready, we can make our way out of this. And always coming out of our poses slowly, not rushing. We never want to hurt ourselves after we come out of our poses. So we can unroll that mat. And then coming onto our bottoms. So we'll come to butterfly pose, and might feel really good to sit up on our block, or we can sit on a bolster, or maybe roll up our blanket. We'll bring soles of the feet together, and knees can come out to any place. So we're not worried about them getting all the way down to the mat, but we're using that block to help get a little lift, and then just allowing those knees to open to any place that feels good to you. We'll sit up nice and tall, relaxing the shoulders. It might feel really good to close the eyes, turning the gaze inward, just listening to your body. So we're just doing this short little sequence here, thanking our bodies for all that they do for us, especially if we do put them through different activities like running or walking, maybe cycling. So always trying to undo some of the tightness that we create. Even if that tightness comes from sitting. So remembering there's always something that we can do to thank our bodies, showing some gratitude, maybe even offering a kind word to your body. That's always an important thing to do, being appreciative for all that our bodies do. Then bringing those knees together, we'll lift up and off of that block or bolster, whatever we might be sitting up on, and we'll just windshield wiper the knees from side to side. And that can be a slow movement, quickly, but less slowly. Getting some nice rotation through the hips. We're getting ready to come onto our back. So I'm just going to shift my mat once again, bringing it back into the position we started, moving my blanket off to the side. So making any adjustments as well. We'll come into a position that we're getting ready to come onto our back. So bending our knees, holding on behind one of those legs, using that as a handle to lower down. And then bringing one knee, and then the other knee into the chest. We can rock the knees back and forth, or side to side. And then maybe lifting the legs, coming into happy baby pose. And for happy baby, we like to spread the legs wider than the body. Knees can come outside the ribs, and either holding on behind the thighs, the calves, or maybe reaching all the way up for the feet if we can reach them. And if we've got a hold of the outside of the feet, we'll use those strong arms to lower the hips down towards the mat, maybe rocking from side to side like a happy baby. But if that's uncomfortable at all to the spine, staying still. Or we could even bring feet down towards the mat, staying in a position with the knees bent and the feet just resting. Your choice. So we'll just stay wherever we are for a couple more breaths. And then slowly, we'll bring the feet down to the mat if they were lifted. Bringing the knees in towards each other, feet can be wide. And we'll first just take a moment here to allow the spine to neutralize. And then bringing the soles of the feet together. So just like we did a moment ago on our block, in a seated position, we're coming into a reclined version of butterfly pose. So we'll just stay here for a few breaths, taking gravity out of this position. So it's all just now about us being. So not fighting gravity in any way, not trying to force the legs down. And we really weren't trying to force them down in the first place. But sometimes when we're in a seated posture, it becomes just habit to try and do something. So we're not trying to do anything here. We're just allowing the legs to be, allowing the legs to open. So we're getting a nice opening through the outer hips and thighs, and a good stretch through the inner thighs and the groin. And then as you're ready, we'll bring those feet back onto the mat. And we'll start to sway the knees again from side to side. We're getting ready to come into a twist. So just taking a couple rounds of our windshield wiper. Again, a different sensation into those hips with a similar movement. And then allowing both knees to come over to the left side. We can either leave those knees wide or we could stack them one on top of the other. Allowing the right arm to come behind the body. And we could look out to that right arm or up to the ceiling. Whichever feels better on the neck. Just coming to a nice, easy twist. And then slowly, we'll bring both knees towards center, allowing that spine once again to neutralize. And then letting both knees come over to the right side, either separated or one on top of the other. Looking out to the left hand or up to the sky. And being really easy here with this twist. Twisting from the tailbone all the way up the spine. massaging our internal organs as we twist. And inhaling, we'll come back to center. We're getting ready to come to our final relaxation. So anytime we practice, we always want to have a Shavasana. This is the time we can allow the body to assimilate what we've done. So for today, we can explore constructive rest with our knees together, feet wide. And this is another position to really help psoas and the hip flexor to release. We could keep our hands on the low belly or out alongside the body with the palms facing up. Remember, this is always the most important part of our practice. This is when the body takes what we've done and really assimilates it into the framework of our body. So doing this work would be awesome, but then by taking this time afterwards to absorb it all allows it to really be a much better benefit for us. So letting the eyes close, shoulders sinking down, and really checking that, examining the body from the top of the head down to the feet. And if there's any part of the body that's holding on to any tension or tightness, using the breath to let it go. We might even notice as soon as we travel away from a part of the body, so maybe the shoulders, we come back and check in and maybe they're tight again, so releasing them a little deeper, letting go of any effort. Just finding a place of ease as we turn our gaze inward once again. And if you have time, I invite you to stay here just as long as feels good. It's usually good to stay here about 5 minutes or so, maybe longer. But if you're short on time, we can start to make our way, slowly rolling onto one side with the knees bent, pausing here in baby pose. And then using our hands, we'll lift up into an easy seat. Again, maybe sitting up onto a roll blanket or a block or bolster. Wherever you are, or however you're sitting, finding length in the spine. Growing tall from the tailbone to the crown of the head. Allowing that energy to flow through the spine, all the way out through your crown. Bringing hands together at the heart, taking a moment in gratitude for all that your body does for you and being very grateful for this body on this mat, on this day. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. Namaste.